It's like, I'm a gym owner, but once you're doing it, it's a lot more scary, and you're not actually doing the stuff that you think you'd be doing. You're dealing with paying staff every day, cleaning, like Johnny's just said.
This is actually why I think you've been so successful, because you're somebody that has a portfolio of different skills that on paper seem like they're not fully related, but actually you've been able to really leverage them all.
It's something that we really nearly did, is
Oh,
start a
really?
gym. Yeah, we're very close.
Welcome to the Propane Business Podcast. We are here, privileged to be with Nick Walsh today. I feel like because we spoke to another Nick last week, we're going to have to make this very clear in the podcast feed which Nick is which. We can even call it which Nick. Anyway, Nick is a gym owner, personal trainer, and he's transitioned over the last year into being a full-time online coach. And the reason we wanted to speak with him is because he's a guy who we've been working with for the last few months, and his execution of this stuff has been fantastic. He's got really good results for his clients. He's built a really strong personal brand, and every component of the whole thing has just really come together so nicely for Nick. And we thought there's a lot of lessons that you guys can learn from how he's made this transition. So Nick, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me on, guys. It's good to speak to you, probably.
So Nick, can you give us a bit of a background on who you are, who you work with, and what you do at the minute?
Sure, yeah. So I'll kind of take you back to the early days. So my path was I got into training, the typical bodybuilder path, where I was reading a lot of bodybuilding.com and going to the gym as much as I could, drinking Jack 3D, and then decided that I quite like personal training. So I started doing some personal training in a gym. And I got together with two other guys who were in a similar industry to me at the time. We decided that we wanted to set up a personal training studio. So we got together and that went quite well. So well, in fact, that we decided to upgrade and make it into a gym. So we took that on board and followed that path for a while. The gym is actually still running now. They've just been merged with another gym in London, I believe, called W10. So congratulations to those guys. But yeah, I followed that path for a little while and then decided that I wanted to step away and try out different things, which is when I transitioned to being an online coach.
Nice. And what was it that triggered the wanting to switch from gym owner to coach?
I think when you're starting a gym, it is almost a passion of mine to do something like that, because that is every gym lad's dream, I guess. But once you're in it, the hours are long and you are very much in the business. So whilst I was in the gym and working for the gym, I actually started building up a small online client base just outside of my area, and pushed that forward for a little while and thought, you know what, this actually seems like something that I could potentially be doing more and follow the path that I actually want to leave in my life rather than running a gym. So I went along with that for a while.
It's something that we really nearly did, is start a gym. Yeah, we're very close. I think I don't know, it's hard to say. I'm glad I didn't do that because we didn't do it, so I don't know whether it would have been the right thing or not to do. But I think a lot of people we work with who either run a gym or have run a gym or been part of gym operations say that kind of the vision of it is very different to the kind of cleaning the toilets, doing the long hours reality.
Absolutely. And I think it was nice to have something to say that it was yours, almost like a brick and mortar business that you can be proud of. It's like, I'm a gym owner, but once you're doing it, it's a lot more scary, and you're not actually doing the stuff that you think you'd be doing. You're dealing with paying staff every day, cleaning, like Johnny just said. And it's just all like the insurance, the nitty gritty stuff. And most of my day-to-day stuff was accounting and paying people. So it's not exactly what you expect it to be.
Which is rubbish, isn't it? Like, you don't want to be paying, you want people to pay you, not to have to pay other people.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
exactly that.
I think it's very similar to the whole E-Myth Revisited thing, where you start off running a bakery because you like baking and you like bread and pastries and things, and then before you know it, you're in over your head and actually you're spending most of your time doing bookkeeping about baking and not actually doing the baking.
Exactly.
And yeah, I do. There's a little pang of like, oh, that would be nice when I see people that have got a boutique gym studio or somewhere that's like, oh, this is like Walsh Fitness Central, and you can go there and it's like it's fully your own. You can customize it. You can have like whatever murals you want on the wall and that kind of thing. And it's kind of like your baby. But as you said, it hamstrings you at the same time, because then you have to always physically be present, or at least pay a staff member to be present. I guess kind of the difference between renting somewhere where all of the hassle and the ball ache is taken care of by a landlord, pipe bursts and you're like, not my problem, I just pay the rent and I'm kind of sorted, compared to buying a house where you can actually fully customize it and it becomes your own, but it comes along with so much extra hassle as well.
Yeah. And
So it seems like it was a lifestyle choice for you.
absolutely. I mean, that's exactly what I was going to say next, because it started feeling almost a little bit old school. Like my interests were, I mean, I was interested in coding. I had some like little side projects which were e-commerce stores and things like that. So it wasn't really, although I could use a lot of the marketing stuff with the gym, it wasn't really the path I wanted to be on after a few years of doing that. So when I saw the option of online coaching, I thought, well, I can combine my interests and what I learned through my interests, and then push that a little bit more.
I think seeing that and seeing how it's come out as this really well-oiled machine at the other end of it, it's been fantastic. 'Cause you're running this app as well. Can you tell us about
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess before I came to you guys, like this was always a dream of mine where I wanted to put, my own brain into an app or a bot that would help people with online coaching. So almost remove the human aspect of online coaching. So have the weekly check-ins with the bot. They'd adjust the macros for somebody, and guide them through the process. Because I was thinking with a lot of the time, these people are coming board, especially some of my clients now after working with you guys, it's all in the system. And a lot of the time you don't even really be spending time with them. Like the whole system's set up so that they can get results and they can do it on their own. And so I wanted to create that through a bot, and Facebook have made some changes recently just before lockdown. So we do need to go in there and work on those, but I'm quite excited about that project.
I suppose like looking at it from a systems thinking perspective rather than a coach perspective, and having
Absolutely.
a different hat on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I mean, don't get me wrong, like if I was speaking to another coach that was looking to come into the fitness business, I wouldn't say do it that way straight away. You need to get into the education aspects and actually learn about all that stuff. Like I was going to the Alan Aragon seminars, I was going to 3DMJ seminars, I was learning as much as I could about being a coach and the actual education. And I think that's what's really helped me be more confident with the service that I've now created, because I can put that into a system and I know it will work. And it's got the education behind it.
We were probably at the same seminars, I imagine.
I think we were, yeah. Actually, I was speaking to one of my friends who I ran the gym with, and I was telling you that I was working with you guys, and he was like, "Oh, they were at an Aragon seminar," and I was like,
right.
"Really?"
Yeah.
So what I loved about the Alan Aragon seminar, it happens quite a lot with these kind of conferences, because you get like a big mixture of people that turn up in the audience, and you always get at least 5 questions over the weekend that are someone puts their hand up and they say it's a question, but actually it's just a 5-minute ramble about themselves with no question at the end of it.
Yeah, that happens quite a lot, didn't it?
And it leaves Alan in this position where he's got to then like try and fumble an answer based on a few key words that this person said.
Yeah, I remember one particular moment where someone was asking a question and it was clearly pointing, like mentioning somebody else that was in the room at the time, and it being really awkward. I don't know if you guys picked up on that, but
No, I don't think I did.
it was like one coach asking a question about something that another coach was doing at the time, and this coach was very well known at that point. But I think they were just well known for selling cookie cutter plans.
Oh, I see.
I don't think they're in the industry anymore, but that person was calling that other person out, and it was quite interesting to see Alan's reaction to it, because he could tell it was going on, but he didn't want to say
Yeah.
what he thought was happening. So
What, so you're just passive aggressively slating this other person?
yeah, and it's like, what would you suggest to someone that's creating plans that are just PDFs for everybody?
Well, what do you think? What do you think, Alan? If someone said that someone was doing this thing, what would you say to them? It was actually,
for example, if they were sitting in the third row,
that seat.
Yeah, exactly.
hypothetically speaking.
There's a guy who Yusuf mentioned in our previous podcast, who we still will not name, but he sent us it. He was actually at this conference, and we'd never met him before. Do you know what I'm talking about, Yusuf?
I think so.
Yeah, we'd never met him before, and he basically had previously, just leading up to that, had sent us an email about this free download we'd made, and the email basically said, "Hi guys, I downloaded this thing you put together. I was almost about to make exactly the same thing. Like I was just about to make it. Can I just use yours and put my logo on it? Come on, mate. Like, and then we saw him at this thing, and you're like, all right. But yeah, those conferences, they're good, but they're a weird, like,
yeah.
It's great actually, because the book Green Mile by Stephen King, bestseller, made into a film and everything. I actually, before I saw the film, I had a dream of exactly the same thing. So I sent Stephen King a message just saying, "Hey Stephen, I know you've written this book and it's ready for publication, but it was kind of my idea. So can I just put my name on it?"
Mile, the latest, is that the current film, the second film you've seen?
That's my
Fight Club and now Green Mile.
1995. So I think one of the interesting or the most transferable lesson from that, because there'll probably be people listening thinking like, bloody hell, I can't code. I can't make a coaching bot, and I'm just trying to get a footing in online coaching. What do I do? But it seems like really the meta skill here is that you're always looking to expand your skills, always learning, always trying to basically pull together these disparate skills that you do have into something that that you can then create and make your own. And so whether it is coding or whether I think things like design, photography, even using yourself as a personal brand, which I think you've done. Like there's a lot of the model shots that you've used for that too. Ultimately, I guess it's creating a cocktail of your set of skills and turning that into your personal brand and having faith that there will be people in the market that will really resonate with that.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think you just got to, what I did when I moved away from the gym, I think it was, I almost felt like I had the carpet pulled out from under my feet initially, because when I realised I wasn't enjoying it and this could potentially be the rest of my life, I thought, well, what am I going to start doing? So I had to sit down and think about what I was good at and what I'd like to be good at, and the things that I would like to achieve. And one of the things that I wanted to achieve did seem kind of quite far away. So I decided just to spend 30 minutes every day just working on things. So the really basic things I've started working on, I like things like Canva, just getting better at designing on Canva. And also like the coding and things like that you've mentioned, and doing videos and stuff for fitness. So I just practiced just 30 minutes a day, but just repeating it on a regular basis. And the Python, I mean, it becomes quite fun once you get to a point where you're comfortable with it and you can make basic stuff. You can make games and things like that. And then there's communities where you can download code and incorporate to yours, which you can add to it. It gets a lot more fun. So when you're in the communities of the groups of things you're learning, it becomes a lot easier. So if you can just dedicate a little bit of time to it, like I say, it was just 30 minutes a day, you'll be rolling.
This is a very bodybuilder's mindset, and like you don't get to the size that you are by accident. So I think this is a sign of your kind of mindset where you're like, I'm just going to take a simple thing of a system that I know works and just do it for 30 minutes a day.
Yeah,
and it's it's not a very sexy thing, but it's exactly what gets the results.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think, I mean, it's funny you should say that, because that's how I started training initially. I was just doing 10 press-ups and 10 pull-ups a day, and that's how I started building it up. But I think once you've got into that routine and you've got that consistent flow and you build up the momentum, it just becomes normal. And so it's a lot less scary when you're in the flow of it.
See, that's a huge lesson, I guess, because as a trainer or as a coach, often you've got to where you are because you've got a very high boredom tolerance, clearly. Now, a lot of your clients won't always have that. And I suppose the job of the coach is to make it interesting or make it attractive for them to come on board with that. And that's one of the problems that a client might be facing. So, but as a business owner, you've got to just suck it up, buttercup, haven't you? And just kind of do the things that are hard consistently. And it's so interesting that we're always coming full circle round to this stuff, whereas like all of these new marketing strategies and funnels and there's always shiny, what's it called, like flashing lights and shiny object syndrome in the marketing world as much as there is in the fitness world. But at the end of the day, the basics applied consistently still always trump.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm very open to say that I have been hit by the shiny object syndrome quite a few times. However, what I have found is that the foundations of what I've always been attracted to have always been the same. And when I put it down in front of me and written written down what I actually had done, whether it was e-commerce, whether it was the part, whether it was the gym. There's always the fundamentals of having the emails in place, having all the systems in place, which is why coming around to your guys' course is why I was so driven by it, because I thought, well, I've got my Instagram, but I can't see Instagram being something that I can just increase or decrease inquiries on. So when you guys mentioned that you had this system where it could increase it, I was thinking, well, this is me all over. And I think that's probably why it's worked so well for me.
So I think some people see Propane Business as this like dark room that Yusuf and I have, that we like invite people in to the dark room, shut the door, 12 weeks goes by, we let them out the dark room, and they're like, yeah, I really liked it, I've got some clients and stuff like that, but they don't really know what happens in the dark room, and we don't talk about what happens in the dark room. So for someone who's been with us in the dark room for a while, without talking about all of the secrets of the dark room, what's your experience been like of the program? What have you learned? What have you gained from it?
Well, firstly, I was really impressed with the process of it, because I think and I mentioned this to you, Johnny, initially, was my concern with these courses is the amount of overwhelm you get hit with sometimes, and you just get hit with all this stuff. And I know that some of my clients in the past have felt like this when they've taken on my systems. So I was quite concerned that I'd just be hit with all these different tasks that I needed to do. But the way it worked out was it just got drip fed to me, and it worked out okay. And there's obviously a lot of stuff that I'd already done, so I could sift through the stuff that I'd already done quite nicely, and then move on to the bits that I'd learned, and then go back to areas where I feel like I needed to expand on it. But what's really helped me is the process of explaining the systems, emails especially, and how I can use the challenges, and the people that don't necessarily start up as clients carry on in my flow of emails. So yeah, it's been really good. It's been really good. I think going back to my early days, I always thought a good online coach was someone that's very educated and has all the transformations. I mean, that is still the case, but you do need to be able to sell and retain clients as well. So having those systems in place is really important.
And you mentioned you heard me talk about so for anyone who's watched like our free training or our webinar, I talk about 3 to 5%. As this, like, I suppose what we teach, I think the fundamentals of what we teach is this process that allows you to take someone who's a complete stranger and try and move them towards becoming a client in the shortest period of time that's reasonable, right? Because that's, if you look across the online world, that's what most coaches are missing, is something like that. So we use a 14-day challenge. 3 to 5% is the target, and your conversion is
10%. So I'll explain how it's worked. So when I joined the course, Yusuf and Johnny are laughing at me here because apparently this is really good. So I set up some groups in my local area just to help with fitness and things like that. So I've got 4 different ones, and I've separated them into different age groups. So 2 are women's, younger and older, and then 2 are men, younger and older. And I've been posting them regularly since like 2016, just doing videos, providing content, things that have changed in the area, whether it's gyms that have opened or new machines that I've seen in a certain gym that might help someone, just providing like regular updates and stuff like that. And they've now got a little bit of a community going in there. So when I learned about the method that you guys teach, which is moving people into the groups, I just did a live in those groups and said, look, I'm running 14-day challenge here. One was like a muscle gain challenge, and one was a fat loss challenge. So I moved them all across to a different group, and then when they're in that group, it just ran so well. It's been really good. And I guess, I mean, I don't know if the 10% is a little bit higher because those people that moved into the group were potentially already warm. They knew who I was before they went into the group. Who knows? But it just seems like such a good system to have in place.
Well, I mean, it's double the maximum of the range we aim for. So yeah, it's slightly high. That's all right. You know, it's being high. That it's fine to convert more sales.
Yeah,
that's absolutely fine. If that's how you want to run things.
You've got to make sure you've got the systems in place to take that many people on.
Of course, yeah.
That's a huge thing, because and I think part of the reason that you converted so well is that you apply. I mean, it's a sales mechanism, it's a process that works, but you have to obviously apply it into a business that is offering a service. And if it's a good business and it's already well run, or you're already a good coach, it's going to be the amplifier for that. It's going to be a multiplier. And so if you apply that system to a shit coach, they will actually make some sales. But the problem then becomes the delivery. And if someone is a shit coach and they have a great sales process, exactly as you said, they're going to end up taking on loads of clients, but not being able to actually deliver the result to them. And a lot of these kind of business six-figure Fit Pro programs only focus on the sales component, and it can end up with a lot of unhappy clients or a lot of overworked coaches because they've suddenly got loads of sales, but they don't have any system to actually cater for all these new people that they've taken on.
It's like how to make your very own fire festival, isn't it?
Yeah, literally that.
Yeah. And you've got your water stuck at customs, and you've got to send it to the guy, and
and then it all goes pear-shaped.
You have to go and then like offer to have sex with the man who's delivering the water, so that
absolutely, yeah.
You think if only I'd gone and just worked with Johnny and Yusuf instead of this guy, anonymously.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's crazy some of the stuff you see people selling now. A lot of these online coaches at the moment are forcing people to be constantly pushing on Instagram, and I get how that's will help you, but it just doesn't seem to be scalable. And you look at all the stuff they're advising, and it's just like talking about taking on board high ticket clients, and then just thinking about how much time you've got to spend on the phone with those people, and you're just like, nah.
Well, this is something that you've been, obviously, from the initial decision to go from gym owner to online coach, it's been a lifestyle decision. How has that kind of guided your actions and also how your day looks like now in terms of lifestyle improvement?
So I think in terms of actions, I mean, one of the biggest things that I would have learned from running the gym is people skills. And when I run these groups, some of the people always say it's like having my best friend on camera. So I think like having someone just there that you can chat with and just having a laugh with makes it a lot easier for you. But in terms of schedule and stuff, like, I mean, my schedule when I was running the gym was just an absolute nightmare, because you'd have to be at the gym at 5:30, you'd probably leave at 10 at night, maybe later. So I didn't really have anything in the way of routine, which is why I kind of wanted to move away from it and actually structure my life. So now, most of my day, so I wake up, do my standard morning routine. I'll spend a few hours doing the essential work and stuff, so the stuff that's top of the list. And then I'll go train or have a break or whatever, go walk the dog, then come back and I'll do 2 or 3 hours of like getting stuff ready for systems, whether it's emails and things like that. So yeah, my days now are just much more controllable, and it just seems to be, I mean, tomorrow I'm going on holiday, and I'll take my laptop with me, but I'll just be able to get up, do an hour in the morning, and know I'll be okay for the rest of the day. So I think it's really nice to have control back of your life as well, because like I mentioned earlier, if I have someone that now on boards, they'll pay their money and they will be then taken through an onboarding process without actually having me there. Obviously, if I want to intervene and have a coaching call with them, then I can do, but I know that I've got these systems to fall back on if I don't, or I'm elsewhere at the time. So that's really nice to have in place.
It's really, I think very few people, or at least I hear very few people talking about the daily reality of this stuff that isn't like, oh, I was busy PT, and then suddenly I'm in Bali and everything's brilliant and I don't do any work. It's like, well, what about the in-between where you just get to kind of work on stuff you like doing at home, and it's just nice and relaxing?
I think, I mean, you're similar to me, Johnny, because you've got a dog, so we've got a family dog. Well, it's my parents' dog really, but I walk her quite often. But I think the one time where I realised that, especially in lockdown, where I realised that things were getting a lot better was when I was walking my dog a lot more. I was thinking I've now got more free time to actually just go out and just do something. I listen to a podcast or do something to myself, where before I'd be rushing around, or I'd be thinking about what I've got to do next. My diary would literally just be like hour, all blocked out, and I wouldn't have any time at all. Whereas now I've got a bit more time to think and evaluate what I want to do.
Time to think's a big one, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like just being able to sit and sort of look at things from a zoom out and think, where might I be in a year or 3 years or 5 years? And when you're just in kind of client, appointments, quick lunch, train myself, then client, then it's 10 p.m. You don't really get that, aside from when you're completely not working and trying not to think about work.
Absolutely.
kind of Silicon Valley strategist coach people are always saying that creativity is one of the biggest attributes in success, and it's quite underrated as well because people always think it's a bit of a kind of fluffy personal attribute, but it's the first thing to go, isn't it? When you've got a full schedule and all you can think about is like what you got to do for the next 2 hours, and it just, or even the next 2 minutes, and you're just being blasted from all fronts.
Absolutely.
That completely disappears.
I think one of the issues I had with coaching was that when I was so busy, when I first started doing online coaching, I just had Excel spreadsheets, and it was just real basic. Like there was nothing that really there that would work as a system. And so when I was so busy, I'd go, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I just fall back on my old systems, and I'd get in a rut, and I'd really struggle to get out of it. And I'm sure this is a concern for a lot of other online coaches, is I couldn't see myself running this business when I was 40. And I was thinking, well, what am I going to be doing at that point? So what I've now got in place is a system, well, an actual business, because before I was the job. It was a job. So I think now I've got that in place. It's just really nice to know that I could be running this and potentially other businesses as well.
That is awesome.
When I'm older.
One of the biggest temptations to wake up, and even though you know that you've got some really high yield stuff that you could be doing, that, you know, in the quadrant of urgency and importance, and then and you end up doing the urgent, not important stuff and just getting stuck there, rather than the stuff that's not urgent but important and actually will improve the speed of the ship long term. But we end up being like, oh, I'll do that later. I'll just answer these emails, and I need to just quickly get. Yeah. And then every day becomes that. 3 months later, 6 months later, you've actually not moved the business forward at all. You've just been playing whack-a-mole, and it's a horrible feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in a really good place at the moment. I think obviously lockdown gave me a lot more time to sit back and concentrate on what I wanted to achieve, and that's when obviously you start with you guys. So it's been a really good period in my life.
So you say you're going on holiday tomorrow?
Yeah.
Is that going to be your first experience of kind of running things as they are while trying to balance a holiday?
Yeah, I'm a little bit nervous, but we'll see how it goes. I mean, I've just started taking using TrueCoach more. I was using it for a little while. I was like, do I transition away from Google Sheets or do I use TrueCoach? And I put the feelers out with my clients and to see what they prefer. So I'm now in the grey area where I'm transitioning across. So that's more what I'm scared about. Yeah.
I mean, this is something that Yusuf and I think still haven't quite cracked, but it's a problem that, like, I don't think there's anyone I speak to who works in a 9-to-5 job or like a job who can empathize with the situation of, the problem is not that I'm annoyed that I'm working on holiday. It's like, how do I squeeze in work while still being like, I still want to do the things that I'm doing.
Yeah.
So you end up like, I know Yusuf and I get up at like, I think Yusuf a bit more extreme than me in some cases, but we get up early and like squeeze work in at the start of the day, because that's when I know if I get up and do these things, then I can shut my laptop and relax.
Yeah, sure.
It's that feeling of,
yeah.
I think just making progress is the thing.
I think that's my concern as well, because I've spent so long setting these, struggling, and then having this in place. And like the last 12 weeks for you guys have just been progress after progress after progress. It's been a period where everything I've put in place has then worked. Whereas now I'm going on holiday, and it's going to be a phase where I'm not going to be working as hard or not going to be creating something new. So it's going to be a strange period for me. I spent last week just writing lots of emails and creating lots of PDFs for questions that I'm expecting to get, so I can just go done.
I think the only way I found to still feel like you're making progress and like sneak in a bit of work is I like listen to audiobooks or courses and stuff like that while I'm sunbathing and relaxing.
That's a good idea, actually.
Making notes on the side. But I think that's the only way. It's just I pretty much everyone I know who kind of runs their own business or is doing something like this has this same feeling of just lying down in the sun while it's supposed to be relaxing. Like, if anything, which might just make me weird, but what's more fun is like making loads of progress with your business.
Yeah,
in a way,
absolutely.
which is weird. But there's got to be some balance somewhere, right? Like you do have to take some time off as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I've paid for the holiday, so it's,
Of
I mean, at the end of lockdown, so it's a much nicer holiday than I would normally not go on. So I guess thank you guys for that.
Glad to hear, Rob. Yeah, I do think you need a proper on switch and proper off switch, and I think dancing between the two means that neither of the switches work particularly well. So, what was that, Johnny?
The dimmer rather than I've got
Yeah.
a dimmer, you've got a switch.
Have you got any advice for new coaches stepping into online coaching, particularly if they've coming from the situation that you're in, where they're maybe running a gym, they're working at a gym, or they've set up like a boutique kind of place, but they're realizing that it's also become a grave that they've dug for themselves?
I think the first thing I would advise is read E-Myth or E-Myth Revisited, because that book changed my life. And then look at areas where you could potentially waste your time. Like if they were still running a gym, for example, one of the biggest game changers for me was just getting a cleaner. So it's just understanding that the things that you don't need to be doing that will save you more time. And then if they're looking to transition online, then think about systems that you're going to have in play, maybe before you start taking on board too many people. I mean, obviously you're going to have to dip your feet in the actual coaching and make sure you're understanding what you're going to be coaching people on, but predict that you're going to be at a stage where your life is going to be very busy, and so you want to prepare for that and have things in place to correct that and ensure that you can stay on track and that your clients can stay on track as well.
So have some future proofing in what you're doing. Outsource the things that you don't need to be doing yourself, and read the E-Myth.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I think finally, just don't rely on one form of whether it's social media. I mean, we've just seen the news about TikTok, so we now know that things can go down pretty quickly. Whether it's
What's happening with TikTok? I feel like me and Johnny are under a rock.
Neither of us have any idea what you're doing.
So Donald Trump has announced, I'm not sure if it's still happening, I think Microsoft might be buying it, but Donald Trump announced that he wanted to ban TikTok in the US. So a lot of people in the US...
Because it's Chinese, isn't it? He hates the Chinese.
Exactly. So a lot of people that have built up businesses or large followings in the US have been cacking it because they're thinking, well, have I wasted the whole of lockdown making videos of Kim Kardashian?
the Macarena and stuff, and then...
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
Yeah,
He's just been desperate to build a propane TikTok, but I keep just not letting him. I'm joking.
I'm like, Johnny, I've got so many choreographies to be able to post, and he was like, no, Yusuf, you can't. I'm like, oh, please. But it's interesting what you said there about the future proofing and the E-Myth and cleaning, because they are all things that I think have a very one-way blindness with. You only see the benefit of it in hindsight. So before I read the E-Myth, it just wasn't information. It wasn't a mental model available to me. And after reading it, it just seems so obvious. You look back and you're like, well, yeah, of course this is the case. Same with the cleaning, because you're running a gym and you think, oh well, I've got to clean it, but I can't hire someone because that costs money, and I'm supposed to be making money, so I can't be spending. And then it's only when you get one you're like, oh, opportunity cost.
Yeah, absolutely. I was reading emails today. I can't remember who it's from. I get lots of emails from people in the industry, but they're mentioning to me about how people request for burglar alarms to be installed after they've been burgled.
Yeah.
No one asks for a burglar alarm to be installed before they're burgled. It's always after. So make sure that you got your burglar alarm in place before you get your clients.
We were saying this about Black Swan by Nassim Taleb the other day, where he said if on September the 10th, 2001, someone was like, guys, I think we need to lock down all the cockpits of all planes and really just double down on airport security, people would be like, mate, like, calm down, it's fine. That same guy says it on September the 12th, and he's considered some like pioneer.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Crazy.
We chatted about this with Eric Helms actually, and he's the only person I've heard speak about it in the online coaching way of like planning for success before it happens. because so many people are just like, I need to figure out my marketing, I need clients, I need leads, and never consider what might happen if the marketing actually works.
Yeah.
And then it's Fire Festival again.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it?
What was it, the thing? So it's like, I think having the burglar alarm equivalent with the online side of things, being ready for the fact, well, if I get 20 clients, is that just going to knack my holiday or my weekends? But it's hard to think like that, isn't it? As Yusuf says, it's unless you're in that situation, you think, well, that'll never happen.
It's because like you only see the immediate problem. So you think, well, currently I've got a sales problem. So I can't even imagine having a fulfillment problem. But then what if you follow a sales process that works and suddenly you've now got more sales than you can handle? Now you have got a fulfillment problem and you've not prepared for it at all.
Yeah. And this is exactly the reason why I've almost been a little bit scared of ads, because I'm thinking, well, if my groups have done okay, I'm at a point where, because I've kind of grown with the course and I've adapted things, and I'm still adapting a little bit now, but I don't want to get to a point where I'm like, I can't do this. This is too much. So I definitely need to continue expanding before I can start pushing those ads, I think.
I think that is also kind of a byproduct of something that I know Yusuf and I struggle with a long time, which is kind of the cleaner thing, which is like, at some stage, you can't just hold on to cash and time and hope that things just happen. Like at some point, you've got to be like, right, I'm going to invest in that thing.
Yeah.
Pray that it works. And then you, as a result of that, you're like, all right, I'm here now.
Yeah.
When I would have never got there without that. And you're like, right, so when I use my money and my time and do this with it, then suddenly I level up massively. And the same thing happens with ads, or like changing software, hiring consultants, hiring people. All these things seem like a massive risk at the time, but it is that thing of spending money to make money, isn't it? It seems completely irrational. No one wants to do it.
Yeah.
And only once you've done it, you're like, that was the right thing. I wish I'd done that sooner.
I suppose exactly. that part of the fear is that because we kind of know unconsciously that it will eliminate all of the problems at this level, but it's going to produce a bunch of problems at this level that we've not considered before. And so the problems of success are a whole new layer of stuff that then has its own issues, and we hold on to what's familiar, even if it's like, oh, well, I'm turning over a couple of £100 and it's not, but actually, like, if you were to blast through that, you'd now be at a new level of growth that you then have to really adapt to quite quickly.
Yeah, exactly that. I think I'm definitely going to take that step next, and I'll just prepare for it in a way where I know that I can take them aboard and control it. Because at the moment, I think with this fear of transitioning to True Coach, I'm just at a place where I'm like, do I want to use it? Do I not? So I think once I've got full grips of it and I can understand how I can onboard clients, because it's where I was using something called Zapier before. I don't know if you guys have heard of it.
Yeah.
Where everything's just a lot more automated, and I was using it with my Google Sheets, so I think just kind of worked like magic. Whereas with True Coach, it's a third-party service, so my concern is if something goes wrong there, then I've got a lot of people that are out.
I'm really excited about the future of these apps. Currently, from surveying them, I'm not convinced that there's a real market leader that's emerged from any of them. I think they're all very similar, but are we still there? Yeah. I think they're all similar. They all have very kind of similar features, but there's not quite one that's showing itself to be the winner just yet. But I think probably within the next 18 months, we'll start to see a real clear one that's best for clients and best for coaches.
Yeah, I think for me at the moment, I'm just going one that seems to have the best UX. So like, it just seems like True Coach seems to be the best for users. It's so easy in terms of how they can do their sessions and stuff. Whereas a lot of the others seem to be a bit more click clunk. They might have more stuff on board, but True Coach for me seems to be the friendliest at the moment.
I think all these decisions seem huge from like the business owner perspective. Like we've had to make so many of these decisions on like changing pricing, or even like the email provider we use and all these sorts of things. And you think, God, this is an irrecoverable decision. I'll never be able to get back to where I was. And like, what if all my clients lose access? But like generally, people are pretty understanding. Like clients are all right if you make a change, it doesn't go that well. Or like in our case, if you send an email with the subject line "kiss" without any content in it, and generally people are fine about it. But it feels huge because it's your world, right? It's a tiny
absolutely.
If the mental model is like, for decisions which have permanent consequences, take a bit more time before you make them. For decisions that have reversible consequences, just make them quickly and figure out what happens. Let the cards fall where they do.
Yeah, move fast and break things.
There we go.
Unless there's permanent consequences.
Yeah.
Well, Nick, this has been fantastic. Some really good insights into this, and it's so good to see the lessons and stuff that have come out of this, and seeing how your workflow and how you've been able to balance, like, literally running a software business and coaching, kind of pulling together all these skills. And yeah, how can we find out more about you?
So your best place for me is probably either Twitter or Instagram, and it's Walshy Nick, so Walsh Y Nick, and follow me there. And then if you want to come on board, just go through my link tree. So yeah.
Cool. We will put the link in the description.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
Enjoy your holiday.
Thanks, mate.
Enjoy. Speak soon.